Welcome back to another video, guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Today we're talking about the Leica M EV1, and I filmed a unboxing video last week where I talk about my very first initial impressions of actually holding a Leica camera for the first time. But I've had a week now with this camera and I've been out and about. I've taken about 300 photos with it and I'm ready to share my very first impressions with you guys, specifically from a Fuji user's perspective, because I think that's really important. I think that there are a number of Fuji users out there who are probably been contemplating moving to Leica, and I wanted to kind of share my journey with you guys and hopefully help you guys decide if it's something that you want to do.
Far from all the things I left behind, I hear the call of restless.
Now, it's really important to understand that I actually came from Canon and Nikon like years ago, and I bought into the Fujifilm system and I really enjoyed it. I loved the film simulations and everything about the cameras, the design language, the software, you know, everything that you can dial in, the look of the cameras, the dials, everything. And I then moved from the Fuji XF line to the GFX line. Now, I still use the XF line. I've got the XH2S here, which I'm filming on, and I also have an XH2 in the house, which I use for events and just general photography if I get paid work. But my GFX line was more for me. It was a personal use. It was to go out and about and do landscape photography with, and the 102 megapixels were obviously amazing. And moving to the GFX line was a bit of a learning curve, but I was still inside the Fuji ecosystem, so to speak. I know it's a different set of lenses. You can't adapt XF lenses to GFX, but the menu system was the same. The look and the feel, the film simulations were the same. So moving within the within the Fujifilm world from XF to GFX was a learning curve, but it wasn't the same as moving to the Leica brand and the Leica system, because obviously you're moving completely away from Fujifilm and the user experience is very different. Everything from menus, the body, the camera, the lenses, and everything is very different. Now, I will say that I think Leica is a perfect kind of middle ground between the XF and the GFX line. And I know once again I'm talking about different brands here, but the XF lineup is APS-C, the GFX lineup is 102 megapixels if you've got the newer cameras in medium format, and those lenses are obviously very big. The camera bodies are very big. The new 100 RF is an excellent camera. It's got 102 megapixels on it. It has got a fixed lens. It is more compact, but I think this is a perfect middle ground because you're still getting, you know, a relatively small camera. I mean, it's probably the same size as what, an X Pro 3. So you're getting a good size full frame camera with full frame lenses, which are obviously also nice and compact. They don't have autofocus, image stabilization. So these lenses can be a little bit more compact compared to Canon and Sony lenses. And you're getting excellent image quality. And obviously you're getting that full frame look. You're getting the full frame depth of field out of these lenses, obviously at 1.2. This is the Voigtlander 40mm f1.2. And that gives you beautiful images, especially when you are shooting like all the way down to 0.5 meters. That's the minimum focus distance. You're getting some excellent shallow depth of field. And it's a real kind of in the middle system for me, and that's one of the reasons why I moved to the Leica brand. I have a disability with my joints and my fingers and like other parts of my body, my shoulders and knees and things like that. Using this camera makes it a lot easier for me to hold and use compared to a GFX 100. So moving to Leica made absolute sense for me. Now, there were some things that I really struggled with in the first few days, and you know, the biggest thing was that with my Fuji camera, I was used to dialing in all of my film simulation settings. I had different film simulations all dialed in for different times of the day and for different times of the year. I would use different simulations. And whenever I took a photo, I'd look at the back of the screen and obviously I would be seeing a JPEG preview of that. So the instant gratification of having a recipe image at the back of my camera was great, and I felt like I took a photo and I was like, oh, that's a money shot. That's one I'm going to post to Instagram. That's one I'm going to blow up and put on the wall behind me, which I haven't done yet, but I will be doing that soon. And I felt like when I moved to Leica, I was getting just a standard RAW file. Now there have got like a vivid look and a standard look, a monochrome look and a monochrome high contrast look, but it's not the same as dialing in like very specific settings to, you know, into your camera, like for example, grain, color chrome effects, dynamic range, all those things in a Fuji camera make the images what they are. Now, I never actually used any of the JPEGs, never did. I always worked with my RAWs, but even when I imported my RAWs into Lightroom, those presets were already applied and I just had to tweak a little bit of contrast, set the exposure, make sure that, you know, if I needed to crop, I could do that. But the colors were basically just there. And I love the colors coming straight out of the camera. And Fuji Color Science is amazing. And a lot of people say that actually Fuji Color Science is better than Leica's. But once you're using RAW files, that's irrelevant, you know, because you can manipulate RAW files in any way that you really want. Dynamic range on this camera is 15 stops. It's the same as GFX cameras. You're not getting 16-bit RAW files out of it. It's 14-bit only. So far, anything that I've edited on Lightroom has been great. I've loved it. I'll put some of those images up for you now so that you can see what the images are like. So really, that was like a really big one for me. Like the initial kind of shocker was that I'm not getting that instant gratification at the back of my camera. The other thing that I felt like the camera wasn't very good at was, you know, holding charge. This battery is, I think it's like an 1800 milliamp battery. And the Fuji battery is a W235, so that's 2350. It is a slightly bigger battery on the Fujifilm GFX cameras and the XH2 cameras. So this one is a little bit smaller. I'm going to see if I can get this in focus. But 250 shots in one charge seems a little bit on the low side. My GFX 100 RF gives me 750 shots. That's got a bigger LCD screen at the back. It's got the same 5.76 million dot EVF. So I'm not quite sure why battery life isn't so good on this camera. I'm hoping that Leica will improve that in firmware updates. I don't know anything about Leica firmware updates and I don't know what I can expect, but I'm hoping that that's not going to be a massive issue. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the fact that coming from the GFX system, I was always using manual focus with my Miticon 65 f1.4 lens. So using manual focus wasn't an issue for me, and moving straight to Leica with manual focus lenses, obviously these camera bodies are not AF, they don't have any autofocus system in them. The lenses aren't autofocus. This is a completely manual system. I felt right at home manually focusing. And actually it was easier because the Miticon 65, whenever you set it to infinity, it wasn't quite infinity. So you'd have to tweak it a little bit. So I felt like manual focus on that particular lens wasn't great. But on this lens here, this is the Voigtlander 40 f1.2. I set it to infinity, set the aperture to what, f8, f11, and if I'm shooting into the distance, I don't even have to check whether it's in focus or not. I just hold it up to the eye and I shoot. Focus peaking wise, there is the same focus peaking as the GFX cameras, where you can set the focus peaking, and whenever I kind of turn the focus ring, the sensor obviously picks up a change in the contrast or something and then punches the image in. You can also use this lever at the front to punch in and turn off focus peaking if you want. I've set my camera to monochrome, which is what I used to do on my GFX cameras, and then set the peaking to red high, which is what I've done here, and it allows you to see the red lines as soon as you know your subject or whatever you're framing is in focus. So if you don't come from a workflow where you use manual focus, then that is something that you're going to have to get used to. And that's a big deal because I almost always just use manual focus. I had my camera set to manual focus. I forgot the fact that it had autofocus. So missing autofocus wasn't a big deal for me. But if you use autofocus, then I think that is going to be another learning curve that you're going to have to work around. It's not just the fact that the menu system is different, the bodies are different, you know, the way they operate are different. You're also going to have to get used to manually focusing.
The dreams I couldn't chase, the moments I can face, the streets are full.
So why did Leica create the M EV1? And I don't think it's as simple as that they want to kind of branch out and get more of a market share and they want to create a larger audience for their cameras. I think it's a little bit more complicated than that. If you think about the rangefinder system, I mean, it's been around for 70, 80 years. Leica have probably pioneered that system. And a lot of people now shooting the rangefinder system are going to be more mature photographers. Many of those are going to be senior photographers in like maybe their 60s and 70s and 80s. And a lot of the younger photographers, like people younger than me, I'm 45, are using Sony, Canon, and everyone's used to using an EVF. And I'm not saying that the number of people using rangefinder is going to stop one day. I think that once, you know, this generation of rangefinder users eventually kind of passes on and die off, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be morbid, but the newer photographers coming up are not going to be that inclined in using rangefinders because they've used EVFs all their life. A lot of people, a lot of young people now buying cameras are going to go straight to Sony or Canon or, you know, Lumix. They're not going to be looking at the Leica brand. And I think the Leica brand is for, you know, a very specific type of photographer, the creative photographer. And I'm not saying people who use Canon and Sony aren't creative. I'm just saying firing off 100 shots in a minute is very, very different to using a rangefinder because you have to stand maybe for 5, 10, 15 minutes, wait for your composure, and then set your frame and set your focus and take the image. And I feel like the people who use rangefinder to do that are obviously going to be on the decrease. And if that's the case, then Leica are simply future-proofing their consumers and making sure that consumers have got a camera that they can buy within the Leica lineup of cameras, a camera that is in their reach, a camera that they can connect with. And I'm not saying that, you know, there'll come a day where no one uses rangefinders. I think we're going to find that probably over time, rangefinder users are going to be on the decline. I think that's a fair statement to make. Could I buy a M11 or an M rangefinder style camera? Yes, I probably would, in addition to my EV1, because I feel like having an EVF is the way forward for me. That's why I think Leica created the M EV1. I don't know if you would agree with me. If any Leica people are watching this, I'd be interested to know what you guys think.
A name that still entwines. The city is asleep. Moonlight caught so deep.
Should you be buying a Leica M camera now if you are a GFX or a Fuji user? Look, at the end of the day, I think it really just comes down to whether it's something that you want to do. If you're enjoying the GFX line of cameras, there really isn't a reason to upgrade because GFX is incredible. The sensors are incredible. They are obviously larger than a full frame sensor, which is what you get with Leica. So you might be thinking that actually it's a bit of a downgrade. For me, I went to this because I mentioned that it's easier for me to hold. It's a smaller camera. It's a little bit more compact. It's not particularly lightweight. They have a heft to them, but I felt like for me, this was the right move. I have to be honest and say that I am selling off my GFX line of cameras. And the reason for that is because I can't imagine using GFX bodies anymore purely because of how heavy they are and, you know, the physical struggle that I have using those cameras. Otherwise, would I have moved away from GFX? Probably not. I probably would have still bought a Leica camera. So for me, it made sense. Whether it makes sense for you or not, I don't know. You guys will have to decide yourself. It is worth, of course, mentioning that moving to the Leica brand for many people is really just about buying into a prestige brand. You're paying, you know, £7,000 upwards for some of these cameras and they don't have autofocus. This one comes with one memory card slot, but it's got built-in storage in it. So I think, you know, Leica obviously strip away a lot of those features and just give you a very, very simple raw experience of photography. And if that's what you're looking for and you have the budget, then you can go for it. Otherwise, it really is a want and not a need. And And like I said, you guys have to decide if it's the kind of move that you want to make. For me, selling off all of my GFX gear and investing into the system wasn't really that expensive, so it made sense to me. And knowing that there is no autofocus, there are no autofocus lenses, there's no image stabilization, it really is a very, very intentional experience. Going out and doing photography is the kind of thing that I really like, and it's something that I genuinely really enjoy. And if that is something that you really want and you're looking for, then perhaps the Leica brand is for you. Thank you very much for tuning into the video. Thank you for watching my videos. If you enjoy what I talk about, then please do subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below. It doesn't mean that I'll never ever talk about Fuji ever again, but I think the upcoming videos on this channel will be about Leica and probably more generically about photography, my style, and the kind of work that I do. But once again, thank you for tuning in. I look forward to making my next video for you guys, and I hope to see you then. Take care.